Minimal pauses throughout this one. It's a 27-minute video. I got something to do right after. But hey, we here. Alright, what do I know about Blue's Clues? I know that this was one of the first interactive type shows that came out during the time of the, what's that, Daniel Tiger type of dude? That dude that was making basically the Daniel Tiger dude that will have people fan mail him stuff and answer clues and stuff. And I know that halfway through the series, he had to go to college and he switched with his was it his younger or older brother? I forgot, but he switched with his brother, and that I remember watching that episode or seeing that episode, and I was like, damn, he's not coming back, and I'm pretty sure he did not come back. But hey, man, the boy Alex finally posted. We here, man. Come on. Theater mode. Come on.
Hi there. Blue's Clues is an educational children's TV show about a man named Steve who lives in a magical world where he spends his day talking to inanimate objects, jumping through.
Let's just take the fact that he took time out of his day to actually go find the identical shirt and sweater. Hey, Alex,
Picture frames and trying to find clues to help understand his magical blue dog. Law & Order is a gritty, realistic police procedural / legal drama that involves New York City homicide detectives trying to solve murders and prosecute criminals. These two shows...
I did not even read the title, to be honest with you. Why Blue's Clues is a fantasy inside of Law & Order. I watched a couple episodes of Law & Order and I can't even care. I did not like it. It was like Criminal Minds, but at least Criminal Minds is better. Criminal Minds is way better than Law & Order.
Are very different.
Way better.
You could not find two shows more polar opposite than Blue's Clues and Law & Order. And yet, despite this, not only do I believe that these two shows exist in the same universe,
come on,
but I'm
Alex.
also going to be proving that the entire Blue's Clues show is actually just a fantasy inside of the mind of a single Law & Order side character. Yes, I am being serious. I know that sounds crazy, but just stick with me. Because I'm pretty sure that I have discovered a 29-year-old secret that has never been talked about before today. Get ready, because this is the Blue's Clues Law & Order theory.
Okay. I would say this is going to start the series. We're going to have a series of post SpongeBob guy. Post SpongeBob guy, as you can say. As he would say. But come on, what are people talking about? Sorry, I was not here when it was premiering, but the video, like, who this? And why do he seem so familiar? But like I said, the video only came out like literally when I was making my first video. Check it out on the channel, Tommy G. Literally, the video came out like 30 minutes after I was literally making the video. But come on, let's go, Alex. Dream
By
theory.
far, the most common type of fan theory is the dream theory. The idea that everything happening in a story is actually all just inside of a character's head, whether they're stuck in a coma, or they're dreaming, or hallucinating, or they're actually dead. Pretty much every piece of media has some kind of dream theory. And it's sort of the lazy, low-hanging fruit of fan theories.
Yeah, it is kind of lazy to be like, oh yeah, everything that happened, everything that we animated, and everything we drew, wrote, and storyalized was just inside the character's head. It would not even make sense that Pokemon is a dream. Like, literally, it would not even make sense. Harry Potter, it would 100%. It would literally 100% it would make sense that he was in a coma or something. But Pokemon, it would not even
apply
make
it
sense.
to literally anything, and usually there's never actually any evidence besides, whoa, this show is so crazy and unrealistic, that must mean it's a dream! And surprisingly, the show that seems to have the most of these types of fan theories is Blue's Clues. You got Steve is actually schizophrenic, Steve is actually in a mental asylum, Steve is actually a drug addict, Steve is actually in prison, Steve is actually...
I heard that part, bro, that he's an actual drug addict, bro.
actually a murderer who killed his parents. Oh my god. Even I made a parody of these theories back in 2017.
So yeah, it's a pretty basic, normal kid show.
Look
Steve,
at young
a 30-year-old
Alex.
schizophrenic who killed his parents, pretends to be a kid.
You know, that was before I dedicated my life to making
SpongeBob.
fan theories about kid shows. And
About
look,
SpongeBob.
I understand the appeal of these types of theories. It's fun to take something innocent from your childhood and give it a dark...
Bro, where's this from? Bro, I keep having to turn off my mouse because my mouse is on the last percentage of life. Where is this from? Hamburger Helper. That's where I seen it from. Dang.
edgy plot twist. That's kind of literally my job right now. But why are there edgy
What
plot
was that?
twist? That's kind
Oh, I'm like, what was that?
of literally my job right now. But
Your
why are
job?
there so many of these theories about specifically Blue's Clues? Well, I think it's because everything about this show has always felt fake.
Steve is the only real person
mean,
in this world. He
yeah.
looks like a young adult, but he acts like a child.
And he lives alone in a house where he spends his day jumping into picture frames or talking to unseen voices or inanimate objects. It just kind of sounds like I'm describing someone.
It sounds like you're describing a kid show, but with the talking to himself, jumping through paintings. If y'all want to take a deeper look, if you take a deeper look into a lot of these shows, then yeah, you would be like, oh yeah, this is weird, this is weird, this is weird. But at the end of the day, when did this come out again? I'm
One
not
who's
about to do the research
experiencing
or
some
nothing,
kind
but
of false reality.
But,
Even the
come
way
on.
Steve moves around is strange.
He never actually leaves the room, he just kind of pretends to walk in place while this fantasy world moves around him.
Come on.
Obviously, that was more of a filming limitation, but it still adds to this feeling of fakeness. But other than these surface level weird vibes the show gives off, there's never actually been any strong evidence to prove one of these theories. And believe me, I and others have looked. It has been 28 years since this show first came out. You know, you'd think if there was actually some kind of smoking gun here, we
I was
would.
about to say, yeah, this is gonna be my last time pausing. Bro, I'm just about to let this flow, talk. But that's cap. If y'all know me, that's cap. But I remember this came out on Noggin with the other bangers like Go Diego and sometimes Dora and the Wonder Pets or Little Einsteins. Real ones will know. Bro, all the shows I just named top tier, literally. Noggin produced all of that.
Would have found it by now. But
But let's chill.
what if that's
Come on.
because we've all been looking in the wrong place?
Okay.
So, the other day, I stumbled upon an interesting piece of Blue's Clues trivia. A year after Steve Burns filmed the Blue's Clues pilot, he had a small role in an episode of Law and Order. And I thought the idea of seeing Steve from Blue's Clues in a gritty, realistic cop show was kind of funny, so I decided to track down the 1995 episode titled Cruel and Unusual. Just a heads up, this episode deals with some pretty serious subject matter, so please proceed with caution. In this episode, Steve Burns plays a kid with autism named Kevin Jeffries.
Good morning, how are you?
Great.
What time is it?
10:15.
No, it's 10:18.
We learn that Kevin has trouble communicating with others and often harms himself. So his parents sent him to live in a children's behavioral clinic.
Just what was the behavioral clinic doing for him?
When Kevin was 10, he started to hurt himself.
We didn't know what to do. We couldn't keep Kevin here. We had to send him away.
We later find out that the doctors at this clinic were horribly mistreating him by giving him intense electroshock therapy and forcing him to wear a sensory deprivation helmet for days.
He kept Kathy in this helmet for 3 straight days. This helmet cut off the blood supply to our daughter's brain.
The episode starts with Kevin after he's escaped from the facility, but tragically he gets arrested and later succumbs to the injuries sustained from his abuse and dies.
He died.
I think the kid's dead.
And the rest of the episode follows the detectives investigating his death. So yeah, this is a very sad and serious episode, and it deals with some real systemic issues that are
Literally right outside my door, just making noise, bro. Like, don't make no sense. Don't make literally no sense. But come on, man.
are still a problem today. And like I was saying, this show is clearly very, very different than Blue's Clues. But what I find interesting about this is that for years, people have been trying to prove that Steve is actually in prison or a mental facility, and now we have this piece of media where we see Steve's actor in that exact position, and as far as I'm aware, no one's ever really talked about this. I mean, sure, Kevin's not schizophrenic, he has autism, but seeing as how he was being abused and put into sensory deprivation for days where he couldn't hear or see anything, you can kind of imagine.
So, we getting what he's insinuating. Insinuating that he was in that hospital, and throughout the hospital, he's just making a banger series. Just making a banger series, Blue's Clues, that he's evaluating, that is, imaginating a dog called Blue and talking to kids. But the thing is, in Blue's Clues, he's an adult. He even leaves for college, literally, switches with his brother, all type of stuff. So, hey, we still got many parts of this, so... Hey, prove me
Imagine
wrong,
that anyone
Alex,
in that position might try to escape to some kind of fantasy inside of their head.
So yeah, I thought this was an interesting coincidence, but at the end of the day, that's kinda all it was. Like, obviously, just because the same actor shows up in two different shows doesn't mean they're actually connected. But then, I took a closer look at this episode, and I started to notice more and more weird similarities between Kevin and Steve. At first, it just started with some little things. We are told by Kevin's parents that he was learning to draw.
Thanks to him, Kevin was learning to draw.
And in every episode of Blue's Clues, Steve draws in his handy-dandy notebook.
Our handy-dandy? Notebook. Let's draw a rectangle, and there. Cheese.
Okay, but so what? Lots of kids like to draw. But we are also told that when Kevin harmed himself, he was strapped to a chair.
We put them in a chair, and then we hold them there using soft cuffs.
And in every episode of Blue's Clues, Steve spends a lot of time in his thinking chair.
We're ready to sit in our
thinking chair.
Now that we're in our thinking chair, let's think.
And then, when Kevin escaped the facility, he kept asking people what time it was.
What time is it?
10:15.
What time?
How you doing today, huh?
What time?
Now, it is common for some people with autism to rely on specific schedules or routines, but what time it is also really important in Blue's Clues.
What time is it?
What time is it now?
Steve has a cleanup time,
We just had cleanup time.
a nap time.
It's Blue's nap time.
Now it's time for so long. There's a talking clock. And most of all, every day, Steve has mail time.
Hey, Blue, the mail's here.
So yeah, there's some weird similarities
I
here.
remember Salt and Pepper. Oh, bro. It's crazy how just a character like Salt and Pepper get more screen time than most of these actors out here and made more money. It's crazy.
But nothing actually concrete. I didn't really start to take any of this seriously until I realized. After Kevin escaped, we are told that he went to a movie theater. And guess what he did in the theater?
Movie started at 10. He was out of here by 10 after 10. Got out of his seat, walked into the screen.
Kevin got out of his seat and tried to walk into the screen. Doesn't that sound exactly like Steve Blueska-doing into a picture?
Blueska-doo, we can too.
Got out of his seat, walked into the screen.
This kind of feels like more than a coincidence. So this is when I first started to consider, is it really possible that Kevin Jeffries from Law & Order is the real Steve and Blue's Clues is all a fantasy he created to escape his abusive reality? Okay, I know you're not convinced yet, and to be honest, neither was I, but don't worry. We are just getting started.
That's what I'm saying.
Kevin's behavioral clinic is in New York City, and the one-time characters actually leave the Blue's Clues fantasy world and go to the real world.
Oh, that's where I seen them at. The trash. I'm about to call it trash. The failed Blue's Clues movie that I did not watch. I'm gonna cap. I did not watch this.
They end up in New York.
Blue's Clues in New York City? This is epic!
Also, in the
Didn't the actual actor was in this movie? I think the actual
episode of Blue's Clues, we can see a newspaper from the New York Times inside of Steve's house, strongly implying that's actually where he lives. We can also see objects from Blue's Clues in Kevin's life. In Kevin's parents' house, we see a very large salt and pepper shaker, just like Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper.
Hi, Mr. Salt and Mrs. Pepper.
Hello, Steve.
Hello, Steve.
And in the clinic, we can see a red bucket, just like Steve's friend, Pale.
Hello, Pale.
Hi, Steve.
Also, when Steve left the show to go to college, he left on a blue bus. And when Kevin escaped the clinic, in his pocket, he had a schedule for the Greyhound.
Here you go.
Amtrak schedule, Greyhound schedules.
Which is also a blue bus. Alright, those are some more interesting connections, but you're probably still not completely sold yet, right?
Nah.
Well, check this out. When Steve eventually left the show to go to college, he was
Talk about his
replaced by
brother.
his younger brother,
Yeah,
Joe.
his younger brother.
It's me, Steve's brother, Joe.
I'm not even gonna cap. After he left, the show died. I did not hear nothing from the show. Like, this actor, he don't even look like, bro, it's crazy. After he left, you do not hear nothing about the show, Blue's Clues. After he left, I swore that was the final episode. I already knew he took over, his brother took over, but I did not actually ever watch an episode with his actual little brother.
And later, Joe got replaced by their cousin, Josh.
Hi, it's me, Josh.
And not only does Kevin also have a younger brother, but at the clinic, there is a nurse named Joe.
What's your name?
Joe Garvey.
Joe Garvey, you're under arrest for assault.
And an occupational therapist named Josh.
Take a look at the amended complaint. An occupational therapist, Josh Bingham, was dropped.
I think that Kevin is taking aspects from his real life, like the objects or the names of the people working at the clinic, and applying them to his fantasy. Also, this one is less impressive, but the name Kevin is also the name of the Blue's Clues UK host.
Hello out there, it's me, Kevin.
Also, check this out. Kevin's behavioral clinic has the same initials as Blue's Clues. Huh? That one's also not that impressive, I know. But wait. If this theory is true, and all of this is just inside of Kevin's head, then why does the main character of his fantasy keep changing?
Hi, come on in. Hi, come on in.
Hi, come on in.
Well, at first, I thought maybe Joe and Josh could actually just be from two different kids who took Kevin's spot in the clinic after he died. But the clinic gets shut down at the end of the episode.
You made them close the clinic.
So they would all have to be from Kevin. But why? Well, we're told that Kevin has tried to escape from the clinic before.
Well, we called the police this morning as soon as the clinic told us that Kevin ran away. He's done this before.
So, what if every time a host leaves Blue's Clues, it's actually Kevin trying to escape the clinic, and when he's inevitably put back inside,
he's done this before.
His fantasy resets with a new Blue's Clues host.
Hi, come on in. Hi, come on in.
Hi, come on in.
Okay, so there is a surprising amount of connections here. You can't deny that. But it still kind of feels like we're missing something.
Alex does this again. He know how to make it too realistic. Make it realistic on, bro. That's what I'm saying.
Like, I can see why Kevin would imagine a fun, colorful world to escape his abuse. But why is Kevin's fantasy so focused on playing a scavenger hunt game with a blue dog? As far as I can tell, there's nothing similar to that in this episode. Well, I think to answer this, we need to take a closer look at what Blue's Clues actually is.
It's like to me, Blue's Clues is like an interactive show. You get fan mail about people coming in. It's like, bro, I do not remember that name. Do not remember that name. Do not remember that guy's name. The dude that played basically the show like Daniel Tiger, bro. I don't remember.
At the beginning of the Law & Order episode, Kevin's doctor explained to the detectives why Kevin harmed himself.
It's pretty common with some autistic children. It's frustration because of their inability to communicate.
It's frustrations because of his inability to communicate. Now, autism is a spectrum, and it's a lot more complicated and nuanced than the way TV shows like this tend to portray it. But it is true that some people with autism have varying levels of difficulty communicating. And I think this becomes interesting when we take a look at what Blue's Clues actually is.
Well, what story should we tell? Great idea. We'll play Blue's Clues to figure out what story Blue wants us to tell.
It's a game where you try to understand Blue, a character who has an inability to communicate. This is literally the entire premise of the show. So I think that this is telling us that Blue represents the side of Kevin who struggles to communicate with others. Okay, but where did the idea for a blue dog come from? Like I said, I couldn't find any references to dogs in this episode. The closest visual was this vaguely blue drawing in Kevin's room that I can't really make out, or this teddy bear that kind of had a similar pattern to Blue, but nothing really concrete.
Come on,
which
Alex.
is weird because Blue is such a major part of this fantasy. But then I realized doesn't matter if we can't find a direct connection, because in Blue's Clues, Steve didn't actually adopt Blue. In a flashback episode of Blue's Clues, we learned that when Steve was younger, he read a book about a blue dog.
It's a book.
And it just came to life.
A puppy.
Which caused Blue to magically come to life. And I think this is also probably what happened with Kevin. We see that the Children's Behavioral Clinic is full of what we can reasonably assume are children's books. Maybe there's a book in here that also gave Kevin the idea for a blue dog, just like Steve. In fact, this idea of a children's book giving Kevin ideas for his fantasy is exactly what we see at the start of the Blue's Clues intro.
It's a book.
Hi, it's me, Steve.
Every single episode of Blue's Clues starts with a stack of children's books in the real world, before going inside of a book called Blue's Clues where the episode takes place. The show literally tells us every episode that Steve's world is fake and comes from a book. And I think this real world full of children's...
I'm not even gonna care. I know Alex just ruined... Alex just be ruining people's childhoods. At this point, I'm not even gonna cap. He really just ruins hella people's childhood. Bro, come on. We back. Come on. Come on, Alex.
This books is actually the Law & Order Behavioral Clinic. And if this is true, that also means that there's probably a book literally called Blue's Clues in the clinic that Kevin is basing his fantasy off of. So even if we never see a blue dog or even hear the name Steve in this Law & Order episode, Kevin still could have gotten all of those ideas from an existing Blue's Clues book in the clinic. Now, the only thing that doesn't really fit with this idea is mail time.
Hello, mailbox.
Hi, Steve. Have I got a letter for you?
Sure, maybe the talking purple mailbox was just something from the book, but there's no way Steve watching videos
That's what I'm saying. It's an interactive show.
Kids in the real world would be something in a children's book.
Look, it's a letter from our friends.
Hi, Steve. This is where we play with our blocks. This goes that way.
So, what are these videos? Well, the behavioral clinic is full of other children.
You want to see what a good day is for some of these kids?
So, I think these videos are Kevin's perception of the other kids. There is just an undeniable amount of connections and similarities between this episode and this show. It just really feels like Blue's Clues is all a fantasy inside of Kevin Jeffries' head. But at this point, you're probably wondering, could any of this actually be intentional?
I mean, it came out a long time ago,
Like,
maybe.
if this theory is true, does that mean that the entire plot of Blue's Clues was actually secretly based on this one random episode of Law & Order? I'll admit, that seems unlikely, especially since this episode came out a year after the Blue's Clues pilot was filmed. I think it's a lot more likely that if this was intentional, then it was probably just the Law & Order creators deciding to secretly connect these two shows on their own. Maybe just because they thought it would be funny, I don't know. Or maybe it's some weird mixture of both?
Yeah, maybe he wanted to add some realism into it. The actor, Steve, I mean, he might have just been like, oh yeah, maybe one day, someone like Alex, one day is gonna piece it together. Maybe, but
because even years after this episode came out, Blue's Clues does still seem to weirdly line up with it. I honestly don't know. And to be fair, this could all still just be a bunch of weird coincidences, and that's
it's a lot.
But regardless of the creator's intent, it still works, you know? And it makes talking about Blue's Clues a lot more interesting. And at the end of the day, I think that's kind of the point of all of these edgy Blue's Clues fan theories. And this was originally where I planned on ending this video.
To talk about Blue's Clues after
but there was still
years.
One lingering question that was bothering me.
What's
if
up?
Blue's Clues really is just inside of Kevin Jeffries' head,
okay,
then what about when Kevin died at the beginning of the episode? I mean, I guess we can just say that the entire Blue's Clues timeline takes place before Kevin's death, and if the show ever gets canceled, then we can just say that that is when Kevin died and the fantasy ended. But what if I told you we've already seen Kevin's death inside of Blue's Clues? So I recently watched the new Blue's Clues movie from 2022 called Blue's Big City Adventure. And not only did I find even more similarities between this movie and the show, but I believe that this movie is showing us the day that Kevin died and the true end of the Blue's Clues timeline.
Come on, Alex.
So, this movie is about Josh, the newest host of Blue's Clues, going on a big adventure to audition for a Broadway musical in New York.
I'm not even gonna cap. I seen this trailer and I don't think there was, I mean, yes, of course, there was other movies that I was so uninterested in watching, but I seen this and I was so uninterested. I don't even think I finished the trailer. That little scooting scene when they scooting and dancing, I think I skipped the trailer at that part.
Blue, we are definitely not in storybook world anymore.
It's kind of what you'd expect out of a modern day Blue's Clues movie. He goes on a journey to the real world and gets lost. There's lots of wacky hijinks, but in the end, he finds his way and gets the part.
We want you to be the star of our Broadway show.
Yes, of course. Yes. What?
But if you watch this movie with this theory in mind, so many things take on a
When does he die?
meaning. The first thing that immediately caught me off guard was the opening song.
It's a brand new day.
This song is about starting the day, and Josh keeps saying, "Good morning."
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Blue.
And literally, the first thing we hear Kevin Jeffries say is, "Good morning."
So is Donovan.
Good morning, how are you?
Despite it clearly being night, we also hear this line in Josh's song.
This life is just like a beautiful dream.
This life is just like a beautiful dream. Interesting. And while Josh sings, the other characters keep telling him to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
It's a brand new day.
Right away, this movie feels different. Like it's trying to draw attention to the fact that this world is just Kevin's fantasy and it's time for him to leave it. Josh leaves his fantasy world to go to the audition in New York, just like how Kevin escapes the clinic at the start of the episode. And just like Kevin, Josh immediately seems very disoriented by the outside world. Until, of course, his fantasy starts to take over to protect him from reality.
Coma? The fog is coming. What is they talking about? Twisting coming? Okay. Come on.
But
what's interesting about this movie is that for the very first time ever, we get these little glimpses of Blue's Clues from other people's perspectives.
Don't you think so, Madam Mustard? Oh? Lovely to meet you. Whoa! Mr. Salt! Mrs. Pepper! Am I glad to see you? Oh my God!
Like I said, this movie feels different. We learn that Josh's audition is at 3 o'clock, and the whole movie is just him trying to find the audition before time runs out.
It's almost time for my audition. Oh my gosh. We don't have much time, Blue.
Could this be why Kevin kept asking people what time it was?
What time is it? What time? What time?
Josh also doesn't know where his audition is. All he knows is that it's in a theater somewhere.
Excuse me. Do you know the address to the theater? Which theater? I don't know which theater.
Maybe this is why Kevin went to a movie theater after he escaped, because he thought it was his Broadway audition. Now, in the Law & Order episode, shortly after leaving the theater, Kevin gets arrested and then tragically dies in police custody. But that's not what happens in this movie. Josh goes to the theater and gets the part.
We want you to be the star of our Broadway show.
Yes, of course. Yes.
But instead of him leaving and dying like Kevin, we immediately cut to him performing the musical in a big climactic finale.
My dream is a reality.
So, if this movie really is Kevin's final escape, then what if this is what Kevin experiences as he dies?
And I can feel my world changing.
A massive final magical song where he's surrounded by all of the friends from his fantasy, the only people who ever really understood him. Even the old hosts show up for this final send-off for Kevin.
And thank you for making this a day and an adventure that I will never forget.
I'll never forget how you helped me find all those clues. Thanks again for all your help.
No, really. Now it's over. So long.
Even though Alex is making all of these final endings so creepy, let's not forget how sad his final send-off was. It don't even matter about all the A Star Is Born. But yeah, the final send-off was one of the most magical things you could ever, like, listen, when you watch it, you're like, damn, the person we grew up watching is gone. Like, he's not coming back to the show. Like, that's tough. Like, so don't make Alex making all of this creepy ruin your childhood dreams.
Now it's over.
Blue's Clues.
So long.
But hey,
and that is sadly where Kevin Jeffrey's story ends. Now, I know this final movie theory maybe doesn't have as much evidence as the rest of my theory, but regardless, I like thinking that maybe Kevin found some peace in his final moments. And yeah, I know that this movie came out 27 years after the Law & Order episode, so it's probably...
But hey, it's just a theory. A film theory. I'm not lying. I want Matt Pat to come back to this channel so bad. It's crazy because literally 1 month. It's not, I don't even think it was a month. It was like 2 weeks before I literally started watching Matt Pat and his theories. He left his channel. All of a sudden, I'm like, bro, I'm just getting to know this dude and his channel and all these theories he's making. And then 2 weeks later, oh yeah, this is my final video, y'all. I'm passing the channel over. I was blown out. What?
A stretch to say that they're still connected. Wait, is that fucking B.D. Wong?
I'm the director of Rainbow Puppets Broadway musical.
B.D. Wong from Law & Order SVU is the fucking director of Josh's musical?
I'm not entirely comfortable labeling the suspect a serial killer.
We want you to be the star of our Broadway show.
Holy shit!
We just figured out Blue's Clues. We just figured out Blue's Clues. We just figured out Blue's Clues.
Because this is my job. This is actually my job. Alright, that is my theory. Thank you so much for watching. Hope I didn't ruin Blue's Clues for you. Hey,
nah, you did, but you ain't ruined too much. I'm not lying. You at 1.2 mil. Woo! You moving, bro. You moving. I'm proud. Cause it's crazy. Cause I'm literally like I was literally binge watching his like literally the other day he only had like 200 to 300K subscribers. Literally just posted his robot invasion theory that I was just binge watching right before I had to go to class. I think this was 10th, 11th grade. I'm like, bro, literally, gotta give the man his flowers. Gotta give him his flowers.
For 1 million subscribers, that's really cool. YouTube sent me this
that's really cool.
big golden rectangle.
Ooh, on the way.
So that's
soon.
I got that now. Also,
Very
you know,
soon.
Steve Burns is kind of active on the internet these days. So if by some chance you happen to see this Mr. Steve Blues Clues, I'm sure we would all love to hear your thoughts on this theory, even if that's just him calling me crazy. I'm fine, I'll take it. I got more fan theories on the way. I'm doing a High School Musical one, maybe a Breaking Bad one. Seemed like people were interested in that. Woo! And I've got a bunch of other ideas.
Literally, clearly, this is Cars. I don't even know what this like PB&J. I don't even know. This looked like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and this looked like The Simpsons. To be honest with you, we're gonna see, but I already know this is clearly Cars, and this is we're gonna see. We're gonna see. But that's it for this video, man. We out, man. Peace. See y'all boys later, man.
Bye. Have a beautiful time.